So what I've got is the Fujika. It
says Super Fujica.
Well, but the company that made it is the Fuji Photo Film Company. So this was what we know as Fujifilm now.
Oh, it's the FFF.
This was the first camera they made, which was the Fujica 6. So they had been a film company back to World War I.
Not the Fuji we know today.
Same company.
Oh.
Yeah, same company.
Okay.
So starting in, I think it was 1919, 1917, they were making film. And then in 1948, they actually came out with a camera, which was basically this, the Fujika 6.
It's a 120, right?
Yeah, it's a 120 6x6 folder, but like a feature-laden folder. The regular Fujika 6 was made from 48 to 55, 56. There were a bunch of different variations of it. So there were at least like the Russian cameras where it's like, oh, it's the Fed B3 version D,
right.
Where it's like, oh, it's a slightly different this, slightly different that.
Right.
They changed it from this lens to that lens. So that's what they did with this. So there's like 7, 8, 9 different versions of this.
So where does this sit in the pantheon of cameras?
Well, so in the last couple of years, in 55, they came out with this, which is the Super Fujika 6.
Super!
So the previous Fujikas were not rangefinders. This is a coupled rangefinder.
What does that mean, coupled?
It means when you look through the thing, like as you adjust the rangefinder,
yeah,
you'll see the two little images overlap with each other.
Right.
And then when you get that distance, you don't have to then translate that onto the focusing of the lens itself.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So it's coupled. So when you move this, it's changing the rangefinder and the lens at the same time.
So older rangefinders, you'd have to focus in on the viewfinder and then change it on the lens?
Not necessarily older. I mean, even like the Argus C3 has like a coupled rangefinder, but a lot of the time on these 120 folders, they weren't coupled.
Oh.
This one has got the 75 millimeter Fujinar lens. So let me see. Did I look through
75? Awkward.
Yeah, there were, again, even with the Super Fujika 6, there were a bunch of different versions of it, but this has the 75mm Fujinar lens. It has a full range of shutter speeds from 1 second up to a 500th with bulb. Your f-stops go from 3.5 down to 22. Some of the things that make this one fancy, besides having the coupled rangefinder, this has a PC port for a flash. It's got a cold shoe on top.
Cold shoe?
Then the fancy stuff. So when you're winding it, and in my particular case, my wind knob is missing.
Oh.
It didn't come with the wind knob, so I made one out of an old amp knob, but I'm actually... coincidentally, today, I'm turning over a new chapter of my own life. My new 3D printer arrives today.
Oh.
So I'm going to get in. So one of the first things I'm going to do is make a wind knob for this camera.
Cool.
So this has basically automatic loading. So you'll load in your roll of 120, you advance it to the arrows, like in the Fujica mats and things like that. Then once you line up your arrows, you close the back, and then just keep winding. It'll find the first frame.
It'll stop.
Get out of town.
And then when you shoot it, you just wind it until it stops again.
Oh, that's
so
pretty
it
awesome.
finds the frames. It doesn't have the red window in the back.
That's great.
You don't have to roll.
Very convenient.
Roll your film.
How does it know where the end is?
Well, it counts. So assuming you're shooting 6x6 on a roll of 120, it's been 2 years for me now, but as I recall, that's 12.
12, yeah.
So when it gets to shot 12, it'll disengage the frame stop and just let you wind it right to the end.
Mm-hmm.
It has double exposure prevention.
Okay.
It has a wind indicator, so it's got a little red dot here. So when the camera is actually cocked and wound, it's got a little film type reminder in there, which I don't even know what half of these are.
Indicator to tell you what film you have.
Yeah, so I can remind myself. No, it doesn't tell me. I had to tell it, but just as a reminder. SS, that's the Super Sport, so that's got better suspension, bigger engine.
Yeah.
Do you ever put a piece of tape on the back, white tape, and just write what you have in the camera? Do you do that?
That's what I always do. Yeah,
Okay.
a piece of medical tape.
Yeah.
I keep in my camera bag. I keep a Sharpie with a foot of medical tape wrapped around it, and I just peel off a piece. And usually I stick it.
Does
on
it
the
ever
bottom.
fall off and you forget what you got in there?
No, the medical tape's good. Usually I'll stick it on the metal.
What is medical tape? I always talk about paper artist tape.
like the white tape you use to tape bandages on.
Oh, okay.
Comes on a little metal spool at the pharmacy.
Oh, right. It's kind of like stretchy.
A little bit. It's fat. Yeah. It's cloth backed, so it's pretty firm.
Oh, okay.
It rips really easily.
Yep.
You can write on it really easily. It doesn't stick too hard because it's made to go on skin. So
the cloth is good for writing on.
Yeah, it's easy to write on. It's not going to mess up your leatherette. If you stick it to the actual leatherette, it won't mess that up. But like I said, I usually stick it to the actual metal part of the camera.
Metal.
This one, cocks, fires pretty well. To fold, you just push these little tabs and you pinch your thumbs. because of what we were just talking about 10 minutes ago, I have not shot with this yet. I would like to, but in your hand, it does feel kind of top heavy. So it
sure does.
I think if you had the ever-ready case around it, which I don't have the case, maybe it would feel better. But I do feel like it's constantly like falling forward. So
How long ago did you pick this up?
This was one of the more recent things I got because I never even had a chance to use it. So probably 2 or 3 years ago. I have at the studio. I have one whole big desk that's just cameras that are like in line to be tested, fixed, and tried out. So
now,
this is in my to-do pile.
You mentioned the advance lever is broken, and I will make a 3D. So just curious, because I'm not a 3D printer, like where would you come up with a schematic to feed the information into the 3D printer to make such a knob?
Well, it's really simple. It's literally like a little flat disc with a threaded hole in the bottom. So this is a guitar knob. This is an amp knob. I actually filled it full of epoxy, and when it hardened, I just drilled a little pilot hole, and then because it's plastic, I screwed it onto the metal threads, and it works perfectly. It just doesn't look quite right.
I'm guessing that the world of 3D printing is an immersive hobby, whereas there are like forums online that have trade
schematics and stuff.
Yeah, there's big libraries of files that you can get online. Like I can get online and specifically search for, I need a knob, and I'll find a knob, and then you could scale it up or down to be the exact size that you need. And
to sum this all up, you're excited about shooting with this camera, but you have nothing to report yet because you have not run a roll of film through it.
I don't, yeah. And I mean, as far as like personally goes, as far as personal like experience with these goes, a really compact 120 6x6 with a good range of shutter speeds, good range of apertures, and the coupled rangefinder. I wanted one of these 6 or 7 years ago, and I looked. They're kind of hard to find, but what I got was the Seagull 203, which I reviewed way back then, and I love the Seagull 203.
Yeah, I remember.
Which is a slightly newer. So this one is 55. I think the Seagull 203 is like early 60s, maybe 63, 64. But the Seagull 203 is half the weight. The Seagull 203 also sells on eBay for $20 or $30. This sells for, let's see, one just sold 2 weeks ago, shipped from Japan with the leather case for $290.
Shit!
So this is I can't even give you a firm price on these because there's a bunch of them that are sold on eBay, but every single one that's sold has been a buy it now. But they're all between $230 and $300, and they've all sold at buy it now. So who knows what the actual value is? So people are paying hundreds of dollars for this camera.
Wow.
So I am curious to see. I've seen test images from it. They look great. I don't know if it's 15 times better than my Seagull, but we'll have to I'll try it out.
It's 15 times more convenient to shoot with, though.
Well, but the Seagull has all the same features. It's just smaller and lighter. Yeah.
Oh.
So we'll see.
And but this one's more expensive. That's
what I'm saying. It's way more.
So
I mean,
weird.
It must be much rarer. And it's sort of interesting. You know, if you're a Fuji guy, this is Fuji's first camera.
Yeah.
And it's the best of Fuji's first camera. There was one model above this one that came out the final year called what was it called? The
Super Duper Fujica.
The Super Duper. Yeah, the Super 6M it was called, which is basically the same camera as this, but it has the MXV lens on it. So it's got a self-timer, and it's synced for electronic flash.
Okay.
Original retail was 24,500 yen, which, if you do the inflation adjustment and the currency conversion, works out to about $1,300 US. So,
holy smokes.
So this was a $1,300 camera when it was new. It's
back in
not
the
a cheap
day?
camera. Yeah.
What? Wow.
So it wasn't a throwaway camera.
No wonder there's not a lot of them.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, when we come back, we're going to be reading some letters.